Hey, where's the rage? We've been away. Yes, we've been away for a long time. Holidays. Hey, Christmas was great. Had fun. Lots of news before the year ended. One thing that was cool, I thought, was that 5 million immigrants didn't have to worry about being deported. I wish one day we could just experiment and send all the Mexicanos across the border and just watch how this country would crumble. Who cuts the grass, who picks the fields, who babysits, who does the dog walks, who works all these restaurants, who does all the construction work. I would love to see our economy just plummet and people just scream and tear their hair out. We are an immigrant nation and we need immigrants. Let me say this again. We are an immigrant nation. We need immigrants. We are a capitalist society, a consumer society, and we need to consume. That's the way we work. If we don't consume, we fall. If we don't have immigrants constantly coming in, it's over, baby. So put your hate, your bias, your prejudice, and all that stuff away and accept the fact. When Reagan legalized, I don't know how many millions of them, the world did not end. We're back to this topic again. George Bush, credit to him, he wanted to do something about it. And you know what? His own party just stopped him. So we would have dealt with this problem, and Obama would not have to do the executive action kind of thing. Other thing in the news was the embargo to Cuba ended. I'm gonna smoke an Habano and it's not all about smoking cigars and having good rum. A place to go for beautiful beaches, beautiful women, and wonderful music. The Cuban Revolution was a revolution that was lost by the Cubans who came here. And later we had the wave of the Marielitos who were part of that failed revolution. But, most Cubans, the young ones, not the ones who suffered the most under the losing that revolution, came here, built lives. I know it's not easy to know that you lost a brother, to know that things were done to your family, that you can't go back to the homeland. I know that's not easy, but civil wars are not a new thing. Spain had its civil war. We had our civil war. We could go on. The Irish Republican Army and the Republic of Ireland and the Brits and that civil war. Iraq is having its civil war. Afghanistan. I can go on and on. You need to move forward. You got to stop thinking that you're punishing Fidel and Raul. You're not. They're almost 100 years old, and they've lived like kings and ate good meat, drank good booze, and smoked maybe some cigars that weren't even Cuban. So I'm good. We move forward on those two things. Now they're talking about 2 years of free community college, which some states have already done. I think that's fantastic. I think we need to educate in this country. We need to prioritize education because that means immigration will start to go up even more because guess what? Not only are you going to bring in people who do jobs that we don't want to do, but you're going to bring people in that are going to do jobs we can't do because we're not smart enough, because we don't have that sort of structure and not education. So isn't that funny? You're going to bring immigrants from one side to pick the tomatoes and clean our streets, and on the other side you're going to bring immigrants to run our high-tech industry and do our engineering for us because we're not cutting it. So education needs to be a priority. It needs to be a national security kind of thing. So, yes, a lot happened in 2014. It was very funny. I was thinking at the end of 2014, a couple of days before the New Year's, I said, when New Year's come, what'll be the big piece of news that's going to shake the world? And sad enough, it was what happened in Paris, the assassination of all these people, the journalists, and later the hostages in the different places that the attackers went to in order to pursue their goal to terrorize a civilized society, a democratic society. I hate how people throw the word democratic, though, because if you talk about freedom of expression, there's a lot of laws that are being passed in Europe to stifle the religious freedom of people and the freedom of expression of people. For instance, when the little war between Gaza and Israel, Muslims were not allowed to protest that. Why not? Why not? I mean, they were protesting here, um, and we have less in common with that whole event. So the other thing that's interesting is that a lot of the leaders that were invited there had terrible records of human rights and terrible records on freedom of expression or the press. You know, Russia has killed tons of journalists. Turkey has sent lots of journalists to prison. We could go on with the freedom of the press. So I wish people were more frank and more open and say it as it is. Call it. Come on, call it. And we can work around it. Criticism is okay. We say, all right, you got a point. Let's try to fix it. The problem in France and in a lot of European countries, I spent 14 years on that continent, is that yes, in some countries like France, Muslims are marginalized. They live in the suburbs. See, in Europe, it's different than here. Here, usually, not all places, but usually, the poor live in the suburbs in Europe, and the rich live in the city. Paris is a good example of that. Here in the United States, the poor live in the cities, what we call the inner cities, these inner city ghettos, and the rich live out in these wonderful communities out in the suburbs, lots of them gated with country clubs, etc., etc. Yes, we have exceptions. New York would be an exception, at least the island of Manhattan. San Francisco would be an exception. Chicago could be an exception to a point, but there are parts of Chicago that are in that whole, I wouldn't live there if I were you. And the same thing with Los Angeles. So the whole thing here that I'm trying to say is that France needs to figure out how it's going to integrate these people, bring them in, not keep them away, not keep them away. Unemployment is staggering among these people who live in these suburbs. The youth, the unemployment among the youth is just mind-boggling. We would never accept something like that here. I know that. And they need to wake up. And I know that the economy in Europe right now sucks, but they need to do something to start bringing these groups in, because they're going to get poorer and poorer, angrier and angrier, and have less and less of the pie. You don't want desperate people living among you. You don't want people who have nothing to lose. You saw what these people did who had supposedly nothing to lose. They did a lot of carnal damage, a lot of psychological damage, and they've brought the conversation up front. So let's have the conversation. Let's hope that this year is a happy new year. Let's hope that this, let me dream here for a minute. This is the worst that could happen in 2015. So, that's where's the rage. Where's the rage is 2015 is here. Let's do positive things. Let's help people. Let's make the system work. Let's work for education. Let's create jobs. It looks like that terrible disaster of 2008, or that meltdown of our economy, seems to be farther and farther away from us. And I think that's good. Maybe soon we'll be on another cycle to go up. And we know we'll have to go down again. So that's it for all Where's the Rage? If you have any comments, where is the rage? At firstcoast.tv. Also, go to www.firstcoast.tv. We got wonderful stories. Yes, it's about our area here in Florida, but these stories, you'll find them tremendously interesting, even if you live in California or Connecticut or New York or Texas, wherever you are, even Hawaii. So, have a lovely, lovely evening, day, or morning. Ta-ta!